He's the voice you hear, the energy you feel, and the guy who keeps Acadiana moving. On the radio, in the club, and at every big moment in between. From Lafayette to the national stage, DJ Digital has built a brand around culture, connection, and straight up good vibes. Today we sit down with Acadiana's biggest cheerleader, Brandon Journet, better known as DJ Digital on Kirkpatrick and Company. It's kind of rare that we're sitting behind microphones at the same table at the same time.
At the same time.
Because I think maybe there's a thing that, are we the same person? Because I do your show when you're out of town.
Right.
And here you are here.
If you ever need to leave town, I know we're just starting off. Just like I've only been here for literally 2 minutes, and I'm willing to cover.
You want to cover for a Kirkpatrick and Company?
Well, I think the vibe in here automatically makes me want to spill my guts. So what do you need to know?
DJ Digital's here. If you don't recognize the voice or recognize his mug, you've been around here for quite a long time. But you're sort of like one of those shows, like How I Met Your Mother, that I just think is a new show.
Right.
But it was on for like 15 seasons and it's off already.
Sure.
You're that to me.
Yeah, I thought about myself the other day. There's like a new Meet the Fockers coming on, and Ariana Grande's in it. And I'm like, where did I miss, the sequel? I just had a birthday, and getting older is amazing because you don't realize how old you are. I always say, unless your friends' kids grow up, like have a growth spurt.
Yeah.
And that's really where I feel aged. But I also felt very aged. With my recent birthday, I realized in the same month, I was 22 years into radio. And if you want to do some simple math at home to find my age, I've officially now been doing radio for half my life.
Wow.
And that was kind of like, that was bigger than 20 years. 22 doesn't seem significant, but to think about this is what I've done for half my life, it's, it's kind of undeniable. It's like, it's who I am.
It's important that you say that because we've talked a ton of times, like, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, we're good friends. And we've worked together for a long time and know a lot of the same people. But we've talked about that on-air persona being who you are, because you're much like me. Like, I don't have the energy to be two people.
Can't.
But a ton of people in this industry, like, we're definitely the outliers.
Yeah.
Because when you look at radio, when you're on stage, air quotes, you're by yourself or with one other person in the room, maybe two in your case.
Absolutely.
You're not in front of thousands of people. They're listening, but they're not in the room.
And I think the internet recently kind of brought you in front of people in the sense of comments going viral, seeing views pile up. We've also had ratings forever where we kind of see this flawed methodology as they.
I was going to say ratings estimates.
Ratings estimates where you have a general idea of who may be listening and how many people may be listening, but never actually like a name with a face. And social media over the last 10 to 15 years in some capacity really started to put faces with names and really kind of gave you a realistic view of community impact.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I think one of our colleagues, Marcel Fontenot, talked about the responsibility that comes with what we do behind a microphone and with the microphone in general. And now that microphone is literally, I love I'm sad that you have these professional mics. I thought we would be talking into Apple headphone.
Where do you think we are here?
But it's almost like that's the new way. It's like, so even with the miniature microphones for podcasters or influencers, there is a responsibility that does come with this once you put names with faces and families and neighborhoods. So, it's definitely that old lesson that we often talk about. You learned as a kid along with the golden rule. If you always tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you lied about. And if you're just yourself, you don't have to worry about someone finding out that you're someone completely different in real life in terms of your on-air persona.
But how good does it feel? No one's ever going to walk up to you and say, I can't believe you said that. And you wouldn't have known, because there is a level of comfort that happens. And because I would love, people used to ask me, like, how do you not curse on the radio?
That's the number one question I get.
And it's like, well, I know the mic's on, and I am a professional.
Yeah.
Maybe I get a little bit loosey goosey when I'm doing the DJ Digital in the morning show.
Right.
Different than when I was doing news. But there's still a level of decorum.
Can we curse here? No, I'm kidding. I think it's like you automatically know. And again, when I go back to doing something for half your life, there's a point where it just becomes understood where you're at. And I think still to this day, man, like to pull this microphone up, even though it feels like it's natural and it's an organic feeling, I think there's still an excitement every time we get to do this and pull up a microphone. And again, I go back to that responsibility where I'm privileged to do this. So who would ever want to mess that up? And that's obviously like, that's the only rule that comes with this job.
You know, one of the things that came up, we did the LFT Fiber Summit a couple weeks ago, and that was really cool. And I got to be on the stage with, you know, 3 people in an industry that I love and got to work in for so long and still do kind of at an arm's length now. You, Gerald Grunig, the Screamin' Food guy from KLFY Channel 10.
Who gave you a soft shell crab?
That man put a soft shell crab in my hand. I trusted him so much. I thought it was a shrimp po' boy because we were at Old Time Grocery. Yeah. I just saw it there because I know you and your lack of a love for seafood.
I'm not a seafood.
What would you have done if you took a bite out of that thing and you realized you just bit into the abdomen?
Yeah.
Because that thing was cut in half. It wasn't a crab leg. That was the whole crab right there.
Yeah, I don't, you know, at that point, I don't even know if I'd put my toes in the water, Rob. You dove right in.
I know. So, but one of the things that came out of that was, you know, talking about how the media landscape is so splintered right now where people are all over the place. I was looking at pictures from Coachella, and you know, Vanna White has this like Instagram like hot model son. They were at Coachella together. Do you know about this?
Well, hold on, you're telling me something I did not know.
Yeah, he's like very Italian looking, always wearing a, you know, wife beater type shirt, and you know, people fawn over him. All right, so Vanna White. Okay, I'm not saying I was one.
Making a mental note to look this up when I leave here.
Look it up. Okay, so Vanna though, all of her fame is she's turned the letters on Wheel of Fortune. Maybe she's written a book in the 90s I don't know about, but like that's what you know her for.
Yeah.
The thing I love about going places with you, whether it's here, whether it's at Benson Tower before a Saints game, as you're walking down the street and sort of walking through the life of DJ Digital, people know you from all different things. There will be some people who have never once heard you on the actual radio, dialing it to 107.9.
Yeah.
You do work in other states. They just see you in person. They don't listen to you on the radio. They just know. And so that brand, I mean, I hate to talk about ourselves as brands, but that is what it is. Yeah. People know what they're getting. Like, how does that?
I think I've realized, honestly, Rob, especially in like the pandemic fast tracked this, I realized that, you know, I wasn't in the radio business. I wasn't in, you know, I thought I was in the gathering business. I think what I realized more than anything is like at the center of everything that I do, even though it is a little different, I am at the center of all the things. So like DJing in terms of actual like 2 turntables and a microphone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I did that for 5 years before I even walked into a radio station.
What was the first gig? What was the first paying gig that you had?
Keg on the Strip.
Really?
Keg on the Strip. I
can still smell that place and feel my feet sticking to the ground.
Man. It was a different time. It was summer of 99. I was barely 18 years old. And I remember, and the irony is I was going, there was another DJ that was there and the club owner at the time, as shady and shisty as you think 90s college bar owners are, it was that guy. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I walk up and, you know, I was going to bring a little bit of energy to the night as a younger guy. And there was a guy with long hair that was playing there. And he would be the guy that would offer me a job in radio 5 years later. Dave Thiel was the first guy. But yeah, you cut your teeth, you make your mistakes. I mean, and I thought it was amazing. I thought I was, you know, on top of the world, you know, at the time. But, you know, to think about.
And you were on the top of your world because all your friends were going to the Keg.
It was the coolest thing in the world because it was like, oh my God, like you have this access. But again, it was a time with no phones and no social media, and you had to know people and have opportunities. And I think I'm very kind of, I'm very grateful that I am of the, like they call our generation the Oregon Trail generation, where I had enough of my life rooted in analog technology, if you will.
Floppy disks.
But Windows 95 really, I mean, that was, Windows 95 divided my middle school and high school years. So
interesting.
If you think about the computers lined up on a wall all the way up until my middle school years. And then as computers started to evolve, like I was the kid that would go around in the neighborhood and fix, you know, people, their printer was unplugged. I wasn't like a genius or anything, but
I was always the VCR programmer. My grandparents would call me to go over to program because you had to set the clock to set the record time.
Exactly. But multimedia really started to, you know, I guess evolve. You know, we remember the CD-ROM and then the Apple computer and then the laptop that was really cool looking. And then, you know, and then social media. So like I grew up with that, but I also had enough of my life kind of rooted in having to show up and and actually, perform, and having to call someone and speak to their parents before you could speak to them.
Oh, yes.
And so just, little things like that, we long for that nostalgia, but there's some kids that will never know, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
They'll never know what that's like. And I think that's a rite of passage for so many people that are my age. But I think it's been a strength of mine throughout my career because, I'm old enough to understand all the new technology, but I'm also young enough to, or I should say young enough to understand the new technology, but I'm old enough to remember what it used to be.
Mhm.
And I think people on opposite ends kind of miss those parts. And there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But to go back to your original, question, to think about having to actually go out, and there was no easy way to do it on the internet, and to do things the hard way and do things the long way. We all had a math teacher that said, show your work. Even though we knew the answer,
Yep.
we had to carry the one and do all the things. But again, back to me being at the center of all the things that I do, I think that for me is like, you may know me from a bar 30 years ago. You may know me from, just meeting me at a live remote broadcast. You may know me from seeing me at the LFT fiber panel where we were all joking around. It was so funny to hear people say they had no idea that me, you, Marcel Fontenot, and Gerald were all such good friends. So clearly what we got across on that stage was being ourselves, that, yeah, we all knew each other, even though we all worked in the same industry. But again, it just goes back to that authenticity, I think. And at the center of everything I do is the authentic me. And it's so important, man. And I'm so grateful that I've always been myself. And I've been allowed to be myself, to be honest with you.
Well, and I think it's funny too, because we've also given each other that flex. I've done it a couple times with you to be like, turn it off. I'm talking to Brandon right now.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, stop. I hear what you're saying, but like, that's not how it really works.
Sure.
And those things work. But I do think that maybe the biggest difference that I see in you is like a quality control.
Okay.
It's why you have to be at the center of it. Because if you did outsource everything, let's say you had a producer for your morning show and they were picking all the topics. Well, that wouldn't, no one else can pick what you think is interesting.
Right.
Or you had, I see these DJs. I love a cruise ship DJ, by the way. I went on a cruise one time. It was totally centered around the Swedish DJ that I didn't know. That's not why we booked it. And I literally watched him walk up. Someone put a jump drive in, and I knew enough of the technology to know that one of the turntables wasn't on.
Yeah.
And so essentially, we were just playing off that. By the way, it was all this video work and everything else. And my friends who were with me were like, wow, it's cool how it all goes together. I'm like, we're watching a DVD.
We're watching a play.
We're watching it happen. But you never let that happen. I mean, down to the smallest tasks, even the stuff that we hear on Hot 107.9 or the things that go in your syndicated shows, you're involved in that. So all that to say, it's not a 6 to 2 job.
Yeah.
It's not a 9 to 5 job. I mean, it is always on. And
it's always on, man. And I think that, like, the one thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the bulk of what I do is probably for most people boring. People talk about how the sausage is made. It's kind of isolated. I'm siloed a bit in everything that I do. And I know you understand it, but you and I talking about it, and that's probably why we relate. A lot of the work you do, you're kind of alone.
Yeah.
It's
thankless.
It is thankless. But if you explain to people what you were doing and who you were working with, they would be floored, But I think for me, a lot of the work, the devil's always in the details, man. And it's my most proud work is the behind the scenes work, I guess, that nobody really sees, because it's kind of something I've had to learn over time, is like, give it the same energy when no one's watching as if you're in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do with anything you do in life. That's hard to do if you're dieting.
Yeah.
That's hard to do if you're trying not to gossip about someone. But man,
why would you do that, though? That's
to be honest with yourself. And if there's I don't have many regrets, but man, I think about now, if I would have treated, DJing or my personal business or things that I was doing that I didn't have to be in a certain place at a certain time. I was like, man, if I would have treated certain things like a 9 to 5 early on, I may be too good for this podcast. You're lucky I'm here right now.
You would have been at a real job.
But I had to go through the days where I thought it was so cool because I was making a few $100 a night. You do that 4 times, you do that 4 times a week, or you do that, you don't realize that you're not really building anything beyond when you're wasting your days sleeping away and staying up all night and kind of enjoying. And I wasn't even partying like crazy. I wasn't doing anything wild.
Yeah.
I was just literally
not even worth what you were doing being awake.
Really, but like, but learning that, and I'm glad I learned it early enough on, man. It's like I look at a lot of my peers that are successful, and they are also, that's a common denominator. They're very honest with the work when no one's looking.
Company today is DJ Digital. You know him from Hot 107.9. You know him maybe from his syndicated shows that he does, events he's put on, shows everything. Saints Brig. You're everywhere. Everywhere you want to be.
A little bit of everything. I think it's like the what is it? A jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. But you are a master of a lot.
And
okay.
You did a really good job earlier of kind of holding the mirror up to me, and you do this often. And I think that it's like, not to turn it into therapy, but
we can do that here.
For people who have a hard time letting it go, you hear all the time that you have to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I know you have to, but you also have to does letting it go over, does that ever supersede quality control? And I'm kind of glad that there's some things in life that I didn't let go. And I try to keep my hands on some of the things that I care about the most. One of my least favorite things to say is, I told you so. Mm-hmm. I take no pride in letting something burn and telling someone, I knew this would happen, but I let it happen just so I could tell you, I told you. That gives me no joy. Yeah. Because oftentimes we end up kind of losing in the end. So I think for me, it is a tough thing for me to do. And I do try to keep my finger on the pulse of a lot of things that I do, and really not just delegate, but identify people, coach people up, and man, help your friends to win, because the more you do that, I think that's when it's easier to let things go.
And you have a team then. Now there have been people who you were with and supported on your come up, theirs as well. It's all happening at the same time. Yeah. I want to go back to that, so first paying gig was the keg.
So
I
proud,
love this.
right?
I love this. One thing I don't think you know about me, when you said it, I actually started to think, I'm pretty sure the first conversation I ever had about being on the radio happened under that red awning at the keg.
Oh, goodness.
I think that's what it was.
What did you have to drink that night?
I don't. Well, because I was working promotions at a radio station. Sure. And it's really funny because I didn't know how to take this as a compliment, but the main guy who I was working for, he kept talking to me in the hallway, almost like focus grouping show segments, and then going in to do the show. And then the first time was you're really funny. You're really good. I didn't think that was going to be anything. Yeah. I wasn't from Lafayette, so I actually didn't really know who I was even working in the room with, Yeah. And that's where it started. So tell me when that changed. 5 years in, you get a job at Hot 107.9.
Right.
Very different. Yellow.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, first and foremost, never flip a radio station into this brand new format in a college town where the colors of your radio station are the colors of the college 45 minutes up the street and across the basin.
That people love to hate.
There's a big brother, little brother rivalry. Yeah. And when you didn't opt to go for the black, the red, and the white, vermilion, I should say. Yeah. And instead you've got I guess it was easier that the station, we were a classic rock station forever. K-Rock was such an iconic rock station before they decided to flip to what a lot of stations across the country were kind of playing with, a hybrid of, and to me it was ahead of its time, a hybrid of top 40, which is your, top of the pop music. I mean, think about pop into the 2000s. You're coming off of one of the most iconic, decades of pop music in the 90s into the 2000s. And you're taking the most rhythmic pop hits, and then you're going to go ahead and take the biggest. Hip hop was exploding at the time. 50 Cent. Think about Usher, Lil Jon.
It's like it was mainstream.
Outkast. The Way You Move, Hey Ya, where you started to kind of see hip hop becoming a lot more mainstream. Eminem, massive at the time. They're we're going to take the biggest, hip hop hits and young R&B, Sierra, Lose Control. I mean, think about all the songs that you still see on wedding playlists to this day. Get Low by Lil, and we're gonna.
I was gonna say, you even have the Flow Riders and the Pitbulls and stuff that really are straddling.
And they called it Black Eyed Peas, and they were we're gonna call it rhythmic CHR. It's top 40, but it's gonna be a little more fun. And so they put this station together. It was a hybrid, and they were let's have some fun. The colors were black and yellow. Yeah, because of course it's a rock station, correct? Right? Yeah. Well, what's an easy color just to pair with this gold, so we don't have to spend too much money flipping the vehicle? Oh, we'll make it purple. Yeah. I'll never forget being turned around by Anthony Daniel, who is now one of my best friend's fathers. Didn't know him at the time. We were turned around at a UL game, and they literally said, "Not in here,
not here."
And we eventually got in, but yeah, don't ever do that. So that was a quick lesson in terms of local and why local mattered. Now, years later, we ended up flipping our colors and we haven't changed the logo in almost, 20 years now. But no, walking into a radio station, man, it was just, if you really want the truth, I didn't want to do it. I was asked at the time by the guy who I met in the club the first time, Dave, and at the time, Chris Logan, who I also knew. He was in the dance music scene. He was in the DJ scene. These are guys that were friends of mine. At the time, Dave and Chris were both working, I think, at Planet Radio, which was, again, really ripping through the heyday of the late 90s into the 2000s.
Ahead of its time, too. I mean,
incredible. Just one of the greatest, most iconic radio stations, ever, in this market, probably in the state, to be honest with you. So, they were working there, and with this new opportunity, they were going to be kind of heading up this new station, and they were looking for someone young, someone who had, again, finger on the pulse. And I kind of was that hybrid. When you think about the idea of what rhythmic CHR is, it's literally, it's me in every sense of the word, in the sense of my cultural background, in the sense of me being someone who's local, in the sense of me being a DJ, in the sense of it being fun music and energetic. So, I didn't want to do it though, because at the time, Rob, I thought radio DJs were corny.
Yeah.
Because I was a club DJ. I was a bar DJ. I was a cool DJ.
Yep.
Like the other mom.
I was going to say, you didn't have to be safe.
I was the cool mom of DJing.
Edgy,
and by cool mom of DJing is most cool moms who think they're cool moms, they're not really cool. And I thought it would make me, it would put me kind of on this level of, and I think it goes back to that authenticity. I didn't feel like a lot of the DJs that were on the air, and it was different at the time. You had to have this delivery and you had to have this personality, and most of the
weather
DJs,
and traffic checks, school zones.
Well, most of the DJs that I knew that were also club DJs, when I hung out with them, they were different in real life than they were on the air, which is why I bring up, and it's not a knock on them, their persona was completely different on air than the guys who were, just chopping it up at the bar. So I didn't want to be that. I'm like, man, I don't have a radio voice. Hey, everybody, it's 6:15, traffic right now.
But you do if you ever wanted to do it.
If I wanted to, but you guys would know immediately that it wasn't me. And like,
he sounds miserable.
I've had this voice since I was 7. I kind of wanted my delivery to stay the same. So I ended up, at the time I was cutting a lot of club spots. So that was kind of my air check. I didn't know what an air check was. And it was between me and this guy who had this just booming voice, and he still does. DJ Sexy Lexi, who is a man.
Wow.
Who is a man with a voice way bigger than his physical stature.
Yeah.
He was he had done radio out of Lake Charles, and man, he ended up getting the full-time night guy position. But the consultant was like, yo, but I like this guy. See if he'd want to do weekends. And there it was. How can I be involved, but it not mess up my credibility or the credibility I thought I had back then? So, I took it 12 to 6 on Sundays. And guess who was listening on Sunday Fun Days? All of my friends from the service industry. And that first day, to see the phone lines light up and all of them who were hanging out at whatever apartment complex pool listening, and the shout outs. I mean, I think I jumped in between every single song to the point where I think Chris Logan or Dave called and goes, hey, you don't have to talk. You don't have to talk every time. Just let the music play. But it was exciting, man. And it was a bug. And I think,
but you didn't have people on their phones and everything else. No. People were, I love weekends. Weekends were my absolute favorites. People would call in. They'd tell me what they're doing. You had that really kind of back and forth.
The radio, and there was a dependence on, like, you depended on radio to tell you where to go. Like, where's everyone going to be this weekend? Like, we would literally, it's crazy to think that we would go into the club and we would literally set up just monstrosities of machinery to get the worst signal in the world. And we would literally dial up, an antenna 20 feet in the sky, risking our lives to aim back at the radio station so that we can broadcast the signal back to the station, then out to the masses. And then we, for 4 hours, would play a live radio mix from the club. And from time to time, we would time out with the DJ. Okay, are you going to play an instrumental? Okay, cool. And it couldn't be long because people needed the next song in the club. And you'd hop on and go, hey, what's up? It's DJ Digital. We're out at Stands downtown. We're out at Club 410. We're out at all these bars or wherever we're at. Come see us right now. Here's the drink special. And someone would hear it in their vehicle and go, this sounds fun.
Let's go.
Let's go. You don't want to go? that guy just said that they're doing this. Oh man, it sounded so fun. They let some girl talk, which is probably the riskiest things we've ever done. But to think that that was a thing that we did and it worked, and we had relationships with these bar owners and club owners and people who threw events, and that was the standard. There were no flyers on social media. You didn't know what was going on, unless you listened to the radio.
Do you think though that could be a what's old is new again?
Absolutely.
Because I miss it.
This right now.
Just to
You want
know.
$1 million idea? Are we going to give this away on Kirk and Co?
Yes, we should.
So, Rob, I will tell you right now, if we set up, and with technology being as good as it is,
You don't need an antenna anymore.
you don't need an antenna. You barely need a Wi-Fi signal. I could probably hook me up to a Burger King.
Yes.
Give me some free Wi-Fi. If you just literally let a webcam stay up in the club and people could just people watch all night, that's the monetization that someone is missing.
People would throw that onto the TV. They'd cast it onto the TV. You get the music. You get the people.
I'm telling you now, the people watching alone, you start switching angles. We're switching videos. Can we switch videos? Can we switch this in post? We're switching angles. Somebody's got an eye on this one over here, and you're placing bets. Oh, she's about to be done. Her friends are going to drag her out of here.
Oh my God.
Look at this guy. He keeps looking at her. Ooh, he's talking to his friends. We'd be sitting there watching a reality show.
But that's also the view you always had, because you're in the booth. So you're watching the
I'm
story.
describing it because I've seen the story.
You're watching the soap opera play out. Who comes in with who leaves with who? Because you know what I love?
The evolution is amazing.
I love the 205 saunter out.
Oh, God.
Whoever is left behind. I was always shocked at how few DUI wrecks we had, because you'd watch people leave and say, you better go to the hospital.
Right. I hope you're getting into the passenger side of a vehicle. Now, obviously, this is not a thing, because I don't know one club or bar owner that would allow this to be a thing.
Oh, I'm talking in the heyday. I'm talking back.
I'm talking about right now.
So,
don't make me. I'll set up a ring cam in the club. Them things pop up with no cords. Don't get me started. I'll be monetizing that.
We're joined by DJ Digital of DJ Digital in the Morning and everything else. We're going to take a quick break here. Special thanks to our friends at Catalyst Bank for making conversations like these possible. I love to just open the door to the vault. You're just the lucky participant right now, but there are so many great stories. There are so many people that believe in the community and give back to the community.
Right.
We'll get into that all coming up on Kirkpatrick and Company. Stay there. So I will tell you, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with the right partner. It takes the right partner, and that's Catalyst Bank. For more than a century, they've been helping Acadiana businesses and families move forward. Their mission? Simple, powerful. Be a catalyst for economic growth in our community. They bring serious capability, commercial lending, treasury management, personal banking solutions, all with the modern digital tools you've come to expect, and mobile banking that works wherever you are. But what really sets them apart? It's those relationships. Real people, real conversations, real decisions made right here at home. No endless hold music, no runaround, just experienced bankers ready to help you grow, plan, and succeed. Catalyst Bank, fueling business, improving lives. Visit catalystbank.com or visit your local branch today. Catalyst Bank, a proud sponsor of Kirkpatrick and Company. All right, welcome back to Kirkpatrick and Company. By the way, we're inside the vault at Rock and Bull in downtown Lafayette. How you like the new digs?
I love the new digs, man. And I'm honestly very just surprised. I feel like this is like, I can make a deposit here. I mean,
you can open up any of these lock boxes. I'm convinced one of these days I'm going to break open one and there will be jewels in it.
Yeah.
So
this is really, really cool, man. I think it's definitely a place it's a lot more comfortable, I guess. Like, I don't know, you've warmed the place up a bit.
It's like my adult treehouse.
Okay.
It's where I can have all my stuff so that my wife is not like, get that out of the garage.
Got one of those.
It's not in the office upstairs. When I go into the office upstairs, I can really just work.
Sure.
There's not gadgets. Yeah. And then I can come down here and sort of do this. Speaking of $1 million ideas, so I was in Amsterdam last week and there was a store and it was sight unseen Amazon returns, and you paid by the weight.
Okay, tell me, so is this one of those things where people maybe didn't want something and then they can bring it and then like it's up for bid?
So the box is sealed though.
Oh God.
So it's a room full of boxes and there are scales, like those old school, Albertsons produce scales, okay?
Yeah.
You go into it and you pay by the weight. I passed it. I had to. You better know the signs everywhere. It's like returned items. They're all brand new.
Sure.
You have no idea what's on the outside. So I pick up this box.
Yeah.
And I think I paid €9 for it. It ended up being an ab
That's what you
machine
Yeah.
that you stick on, and it.
What's the rule though as a kid though? You never want to get the heaviest gift.
Oh, I got the light. Yeah, it was light.
Because sometimes you think, oh, that could be money.
It was also like a business on the outside, because the label's on it.
You knew who was.
So I thought,
oh, this is good.
because what I was like, give me a pack of 12-foot USB-Cs.
Right.
Like, trust me, I could use those.
Yeah.
It's that, and
This is like a hybrid of like the white Airhead. Remember how
you didn't know what color,
know
what flavor it was.
So there was a little bit of like, there were stakes involved, but also you're kind of dealing with like a little game of like, you've got the white Airhead going, but then you've also got the like, what could this be based on? Enough information about where the package originally went.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this is a really good game. This almost feels like, could we open one of these in
I think
Lafayette?
we should.
It should be a bar.
You know what? You could probably just come to my house, get the Amazon return before we bring it to Whole Foods. DJ Digital's here with me, and I want to talk about the community because I think, when we're at things like the LFT Fiber Summit and people actually get an idea for what you do after 10 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
A lot of people, you're done with them locally if they're just listening to the radio, unless they're following you on Facebook, which they are. What are we at? That number on Hot 107.9's Facebook page?
What's wild is like, I think we're at like 100. I get surprised every now and then when I see it. We're at somewhere in like the 160,000. What's crazy though is like, we don't, much like influencers, think about this. We've got people who are influencers here in Lafayette. And once you've kind of reached the 1 million, 2 million, I've got a couple friends that are up in that. You have to think there's only like 100 and, 150,000 people in Lafayette and immediate unincorporated surrounding areas. Then you get into little pockets in the communities. So you got to think beyond that, who in the hell are you reaching? So to be at $160,
yeah,
I know that the bulk 99% of those people are people who are here. There's nobody outside of here interested in what we're posting because it doesn't make sense to anyone.
Yeah.
What we talk about, we're so hyper local. The people who are there are really folks that are here. But the crazy part is like, you often hear that, like, I know we're in the communications business, but we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Because we're so connected with so many people, we are able to find out what's going on before any police department, before any agency, before sometimes we'll know information before we get it from the authorities. And it's because we have a direct relationship with our community. And then you kind of start adding in, okay, well then we've got another 20,000 on Instagram and another 10,000 on TikTok. And then my personal followers, and you start to kind of compound all that. And what's the Venn diagram on that connection? And that's built over time. So, followers, again, it brings it back to like, what's real. We were measured in radio since the dawn of time by an estimate of who could be listening at any given time. Well, now we're connected to people 24/7 in their hands, in their homes, at their doorstep. So,
and there is some technology too that now, since we are literally all carrying around a meter in our hand, that, really we could be in a situation where we could listen to what you're listening to. I know it sounds kind of Big Brother creepy, but
100%.
But
we're listening right now.
How would we know?
We're in your, and
how
look,
would we know?
Chances are whoever's watching this, you're watching this on a mobile device. So we're literally in your hand. We're listening to you now. We saw what you just Googled.
You freak.
Yeah.
You freak.
You notice those ads are only popping up because you looked it up.
So, but the part though that I just think is really fascinating is when people do hear all these things you can do, I'm sure immediately it's like, well, then why live here? Right. Because so many people are, you could be in Miami, you could be in Dallas, you could be in New York, but you've made that decision to continue investing here. Now, you're always on the road. Sure. You're seeing all 50 states right now. Yeah. So you're doing these things. But it's really important that you're here and you're really dedicated to this community. So tell me about that.
I really am, man. And I think you kind of gave the answer to your question about why not. Back in the day, I was telling you, whenever I got that first gig, I had to actually go to a bar or a club or be in front of someone who saw what I could do before they just allowed me to be in front of their audience and their paying customers, because it's their money. You know, now I look, and this is not a knock on DJs. I'll see DJs that are playing in some of these venues and I'm like, I've never heard of this person in my life. And it's not to say that they're bad, but like, I think at this point, most bar owners or club owners, they're kind of fine with whoever, as long as there's music coming out of the speakers. It used to be a lot more like, if there was a bad song and you saw something like someone leave, because you could walk across the street to just another bar.
Yeah.
you wouldn't last long. They'd be like, hey, this guy, when he went
Wait,
on,
was that a thing?
oh, 100%.
Real? They'd see when people left.
There were 3 bars across the street from the Keg
Okay.
that all offered the same thing.
Yeah.
And you had to be the one to keep the people there, not on the dance floor, but in the venue. So yeah, there were stakes. Like, it wasn't just, well, we're all here because there's nowhere else to go. There was competition. So I think though, to answer your question, it really goes back to the same thing. Think about when people had to literally, if they wanted to make it any type of entertainment show, but they had to be in front of the right people. So everyone wanted to move to LA.
Yep.
I got to move to New York City.
And every waitress was an aspiring actress.
You
know, I mean,
I'm
it's
not
the
talking
same in
about,
New York right now.
there were some actresses that had to drive to New Orleans for the weekend. We're not talking about that. But we're talking about, but even that, like, you don't have to go to New Orleans on the weekends to, make a little bit of side money. And I'm saying this because I think the reason why I really never left is because I'll start with New Orleans. I thought I needed to move to New Orleans. There were 3 times where I was literally going. Katrina was one of the reasons why not. And something told me something is telling you not to move here. But the real reason why, and this isn't a knock on any of my friends, I think they would actually support what I'm saying. All of my peers that do what I do in New Orleans, whether it's DJing and whether it's radio, I noticed that all of them were having the toughest time breaking out of there. Even if you were Lil Wayne had to leave New Orleans to blow up.
Yep.
Big Frida was Frida in New Orleans forever until Frida got noticed elsewhere post Katrina. And then you kind of have to go somewhere else and then come back home with it. But I was like, man, there was nobody in New Orleans that was blowing up out of New Orleans doing what I was doing. It almost felt like it was a bigger struggle.
Interesting.
And the city would almost, and I don't know if it's a New Orleans thing, if it's an industry thing, if it's a tourism thing, it felt like everyone that was doing what I was doing, they were all looking at me as like, what are you doing right?
Yeah.
But I still wanted to go. And then my gig, I realized when I got my residency at Metro, when it reopened after Katrina, that I didn't have to move there. I was there. I drove a lot.
Mhm.
I kind of felt like I lived half here, half there, but it was enough for me to be there. It taught me to treat the DJing side, and I was in radio by that time. It taught me to treat everything like a business, like a 9 to 5. And I really cut my teeth as a professional, I think, in the city without having to move there.
Yeah.
And then the internet at the same time was exploding. So you didn't have to be in a place with opportunity. And I think eventually in the radio industry with technology that allowed us to literally be able to do a radio show wherever we were, getting into syndicated radio during the pandemic, not having to move to New York City. As a matter of fact, with Double XL, they never reopened the Manhattan studios or offices. So there was never, oh, well, you got to come up here. Communication, Rob, has just become so to the millisecond. You don't have to be somewhere else to be everywhere.
And let me just say this. I'm going to stop you because you did just gloss over, Double XL.
Right.
Obviously, one of the most storied brands in the hip hop world and
Yeah.
really at the center of
Right.
entertainment. So, okay, so we know about your show that you do here. We know about your social media following. How many markets can hear you every single day as part of WXL?
30 or 40, if I'm not mistaken, stations that we're on. It's a 7 to midnight, 5-hour night show that we've done. We're going on year 6 now. And it was, an idea. Double XL wanted to kind of create a radio show to go along with the content. Because, I mean, I remember wanting XXL magazine.
Because it was the magazine.
It was the magazine. And what I loved about Double XL magazine in the 90s is like, if you got to go, think about when you got to get a magazine. What was the store for you when you were growing up?
Oh, gosh. You don't even want to know how nerdy I am.
Into like Barnes and Noble, and you had the wall of every magazine.
You had everything there. You know what? I'm like a big car and driver guy. I like I could still, if you tell me, Rob, your kids want to go to Barnes and Noble, you have to go for an hour.
Was it Car and Driver?
No, it was always new cars.
Okay.
I could care less about the hot rods. But if you tell me I can go right now,
Yeah.
I'm in.
This dude's going to the store to get the Kelly Blue Book, the latest one.
That's just what I was always into, but it was the same physical thing as CDs. You know, like, remember 1488 CDs?
I loved it.
That's what you went.
I don't know what discount you were getting in New Orleans, but like $19.99, you had to cut a yard. And someone brought up a good point the other day. I think it was like maybe J. Cole or something. And it was like, he thinks that criticism of music now and music critics aren't even fans of the artist, so they don't really have a leg to stand on. And here's the logic. We would go and we would have to pick, okay, I got $20. I can buy one CD. And then you would get it and then you would listen to it. And if, there was one song that you obviously had been hearing on the radio for 3 months that made you buy that CD. And then you started finding other songs that you liked on it. Okay, I kind of like this one too. And then you caught yourself singing some of the other ones. And then eventually you just love the album. And these are albums that have lived with us our whole life. But he brought up that people who aren't even fans of an artist, sometimes I think music critics just want to be a part of a bigger conversation. And we didn't critique our music the way that we do now because it's so easy. For the price of what one CD costs, you have access to all the music in the world.
Yeah, for the whole month.
Whenever you want.
Yeah. You know, I do think it's fascinating because it's almost, that's how I feel about concerts.
Sure.
Like, I've become fans
Yeah.
of artists. Lady Gaga's one.
Okay.
Not that I wasn't a fan before. I just wasn't the demo. Wasn't really for me. And Sarah wanted to see Lady Gaga so bad. And every time she'd be on tour, I'd be like, we'll see it one day. We'll see it one day. We saw her in Vegas, the jazz show. And I left there thinking, just on singing alone, you take the band away, you take the meat dress, you take the makeup and everything else. When I don't know who can even hold a candle to her range,
Right.
you know, and I'm just super into it. But I do feel like that's the same when we start talking about you, because people do get to see you. People do talk about you as if they're your best friend. I've been on the opposite end of the table, sitting back. You don't even know.
I think,
You don't even know.
I think that, you know, even,
But that's good. That's a win.
it's definitely a win. And to kind of wrap up our conversation about, you know, the artists, music, I've always been someone who cared about things beyond just the songs and what, you know, the singles. You know, you'd want to open the CD up and you'd want to.
I love the liner notes.
I could smell
Give
it.
me the lyrics. Oh, I
could
can smell the
it
ink
thinking
too.
Remember when you would take that sticker off and just put it on the trash can outside?
Bro,
Because you wanted that
had
open the minute you got into the car.
I had that thing and I kept it in the car.
You did not.
That cut it.
This is the white privilege I talk
That's
about all
like
the time. Who had that?
I
Did
had
you
it.
have the button thing too from the mall. Oh, I forgot
You
to take
just
it off. Don't worry.
run it
Got it.
running along the top so you didn't have
Yeah.
to mess
If
up the
anybody's
cellophane.
got one of those ink things on their clothes, if you stole something, Rob can get that right.
I got that
Yeah,
for you.
anybody wants to get that ankle monitor off, Rob's got a tool for that. You got a boot on your car? Don't worry, Rob will get it right off. I think that like that like getting back to that, but Double XL for me was almost like beyond the liner notes, because you could open it up and still to this day, big shout out to Vanessa Satin, who's the editor still and was with Double XL when I was begging my mom in Kmart, in Barnes and Noble. I didn't care if it was like the magazine from June 25. It's the one I didn't have.
Yeah.
And it's the one that had Bone Thugs and Harmony or Eminem or somebody that I was so into, and you could read about where they're from, and they'd go to their neighborhoods and spend the week with them and tell these stories, and you learn so much. That there was no internet. You had to read about your favorite artist in Teen Beat and these. So to be working with such an iconic brand 20 years later, you know, I still get excited when I see these in-depth stories that our writers and that our editors and our content creators are working with, man. And it's one of my like most, like, I think it's one of the most validating things that I do, because I feel like they give a damn.
Yeah. You know, I do think it's funny because the new version of that, Vice did this thing, and I wish they would have done 1,000 episodes, but it was like the story of the song. And it was Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 Miles, Shaggy, Wasn't Me. You know, these songs that you know about, to actually hear the artist say, well, it was raining that day.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, and you just hear the depths of it, because we just hear the song, we like the little bop. And I do have I'm going to save some of this, because I do have a lightning round of 5 questions. That like
bonus episode, ladies and gentlemen. If you subscribe now for $9.99, you could see more of this conversation, because this man does not miss a beat.
This one, though, is like what plays after the credits.
Sure.
If you stick along enough with the DVD.
If you sit in the movie theater long enough, dude, you'll see something pop up on that screen.
All right, you ready for it?
I'm always ready.
What is the one song that will always save a dead dance floor?
Oh man. You know what's crazy is, like, I wish I can give you one answer, and I think you're looking for one answer.
No rules here. We're in the vault. No rules.
And I would say, well, no, you're asking, because I want to go straight to, well, it depends on what type of event it is, but you're asking you're asking a good question, because it should be the song to save any dance floor anywhere where, you know, people will kind of lose their minds a little bit. You know, I'm going to go way left field and think about a song that I always play. Once people think the party's really over, it's one of my favorite kind of last songs to play anywhere. Dirty Dancing soundtrack, I've had the time of my life.
Everyone loves it.
It's
a cross
there's
section.
almost like a little cha-cha rhythm to it that you don't read. There's a saxophone that shows up. More saxophones in music, honestly, we need. But a song like that where people don't know why they know it, it's just one of those songs that feels like it's kind of always just been, in the atmosphere. But that song is just a song that I can play anywhere. It doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, how much money you make, who your daddy is, and none of that. You play that song and it 100% of the time works every time.
All right. A crowd that you'll never forget.
Yeah. Oh man. A crowd that I'll never forget.
And what happened?
Yeah, man. You know what's wild? I want to think of some of the bigger crowds. Like I could think of one of the first Buku Fest in New Orleans, one of the first bigger festivals that I played, where I played for thousands of people. I love the Patty in the Park crowd over the last decade plus, where you've got 4,000 or 5,000. And I love it because these are all people who I get to look back at the people who listen to us all week because they're there for us and they're there for the acts that we bring. But man, the crowd that I'll never forget is always going to be the crowd where it's not a lot of people, but man, it's a moment. The intimate, smaller crowds, the pop-ups.
Because if people are at the pop-up, they're already invested.
Right.
That it's going to be a fun, because you do these festival pop-ups. I'm sure you'll have some coming up.
Yeah. The pop-ups that no phones are out, and I don't want to be this guy right now, but and I don't want to be the no phone guy, where you literally had to, the crowd where you had to be there
because you were going to be there,
and the people that still talk about it to this day. Oh my God, remember that? Oh God, yeah. Oh geez, what time did we get home?
Would you go to a phone check event?
I love it. I love a phone. Dude,
when you get there,
connected as I am.
Yeah,
show me an event with no phones and I'm there.
And and you got to have.
I did a blindfolded dinner just to disconnect. I'll go take a nap in the movies. Just you got to be.
You can't call me.
I think we really need more things that force us to, because we say we disconnect, but we peak. We peak. I've been disconnected. My phone's back there. I know D&D doesn't do enough. I think more experiences where we are forced to literally be left to just us. And God, those are the best things.
All right. Guilty pleasure track that you will never admit to playing, but you totally do.
Oh God, that I actually play out? Oh, I almost feel like I already answered that. I probably said too much earlier with Time of My Life.
Well, we've talked about what my Beyonce track is, and it's Love on Top, in case anyone's asking.
Guilty pleasure track that I don't even think it's one that I DJ, one that I listen to all the time. Man, I want to go with, it's got to be something, one of those girly pop 90s records. Probably Natasha Bedingfield's Unwritten.
Really? Oh, that's one of the ones on Vice.
She
was not the star. Her brother was.
Absolutely.
And look at
it now.
They picked it up for the Hills, and that's what happened.
I'll play Unwritten. I usually see them, I'm at the age now where I hear it in commercials that tell me there may be side effects.
I was just thinking that today. There's a pharmaceutical commercial that has Outcast or something.
Yeah, man.
Like a Bridgerton version of it.
That's how you know you need to schedule that colonoscopy.
Who is your favorite interview?
Oh, favorite interview ever. Man, I've had some good ones. I've had some that I haven't aired because they went on for too long. Favorite interview, man. Oh God, Luda was really good. Ludacris was really, really good. Honestly, it's got to be someone who maybe was, one of my heroes. I've done a few with Manny Fresh. He's just, every time I speak with him, he's just a wealth of knowledge. Favorite interview, man. God, you're putting me on the spot. Honestly, I don't know if it'd be a celebrity. I feel like it might be someone who is a little more local. Maybe someone who did a thing where they went on a show and they were popular for a week.
Yeah.
It's like you want to ask, where's that person who was on Big Brother that one time, and then you kind of find out about him. Yeah. I think it would be an interview with not a celebrity. I'm not kidding. I think it would be someone who I learned about, who has been here just, all my life. And you learned a little bit about something that's been right in front of you this whole time.
I'll tell you, I'm going to answer this for you because I don't even think you're thinking about this one right now. Right. And we'll put a link to it.
Oh, geez.
But you had a really good interview with John Weatherall.
Yeah.
Who is the most unassuming guy to have had a song and a dance and everything else. Everyone knows that he's coming at the parade route. And he actually talked about the pushback that I don't think people ever acknowledge because they just saw the videos, they loved it, and they thought it was an instant
It comes
success.
with virality, man. That's what I was talking about earlier. You've got 120, 150,000 people in Lafayette proper, beyond obviously that number rises.
Yeah.
But when you kind of get to a point where 200, 300, 400, 500,000 people are following you, you have to deal with just miserable people that criticize you or maybe don't understand what you do, or, you know, people who don't want you in their parades because they don't get it yet. And I think you kind of nailed it. And that's one example of getting people who are here and who people know comfortable enough to really let people know who they really are beyond the surface level. So man, those are my favorite interviews. And again, thanks to the technology, thanks to people actually being interested in those things. 10 years ago, a consultant would have me fired for interviewing some guy who does TikToks.
Yeah.
On
Remember when it was,
station.
don't acknowledge another station even exists?
Right.
I mean, that was
Yeah, no,
a
it's
common thing.
Yeah.
All right, fifth and final question,
Go ahead.
and we're going to wrap up here. What's one artist that you think is about to blow up? Who is it and why?
You know, what's crazy is like, I don't know if we'll ever see that because it's so instant now. Olivia Dean, I would say it's her, but she's there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be foolish to say on this day, you know, in April 2026, that someone who literally put her first not her first body of work, but like major critically acclaimed body of work, you know, The Art of Loving, her album dropped last fall. And it's crazy.
I was going to say, it hasn't been 6 months.
I think she's next, and I think she's here. I think John Thomas is here. You know, just think about how we hear about a new artist and they're the big thing already. But the crazy part is this. Think about how many times we've had someone in that space and then a few years later you don't hear about them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing now with virality and how someone can be the biggest deal. In a few years, you're wondering what happened to the guy who did Old Town Road.
Yeah.
In 3 years, you're wondering what happened to Iggy Azalea, who had the biggest song of summer 2015. I mean, On Top of the World. Lizzo. And I'm not saying she's not a big deal. Very talented.
That's what I was thinking when you said Olivia Dean, because what does she have, like 4 singles off her first album?
Like, you get canceled. You rub your fan base the wrong way. You just literally... Jack Harlow, who's being made fun of because he switched into a different you can be on top of the world, be the biggest deal for 3 years. And in year 4, all of a sudden people are like, that guy's just not. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, people are wondering, where's that song we used to hear on the radio? So I think we live in a world of, it's not just fashion, like fast fashion exists. But I think you look for like, well, who's going to have the staying power regardless of the hits on the radio or not? And when you kind of look back at the Frank Oceans and these artists that I love that are just literally timeless and they don't rely on the fame. Think about Olivia Dean, who's
Adele. Adele takes 6 years off between records.
Up with a new banger.
And then she does it.
Yeah.
She looks different. She has new hair, new makeup, has 4 singles off of an album, and then she goes away.
When you have it, you have it. And Bruno Mars can go away for 10 years.
We're seeing it happen right now.
Lady Gaga can go away and you don't realize how long it's been. Some people just have it. They can be gone. They can go through. And like, think about, artists who are quote unquote canceled who still sell out arenas. It's just we live in such a weird space where, big brands, headlines don't dictate what people really feel. At the end of the day, people are going to gravitate to what they like. But I think if I had to pick someone, man, I just think that she's not just now, but she's going to be the future.
Yeah.
And as long as she wants to be, and I think it's because she doesn't rely on the fame per se. And it's just at the end of the day, the music is good.
Well, I would hold a mirror up to you again. I think you're the exact same. I don't think you're worried about the quick hits. I don't think you're worried about the cheap shots. You're going to continue to grow. Yeah. So happy to know you. So happy that you're here. And thanks for coming by Kirkpatrick and Company. Fun little gig.
Thank you for having me. Don't be a stranger. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.